Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Supati's here. 7.1 is literally just a few hours away from releasing, and I wanted to go over some of the changes that are actually happening for Balanced Druid that weren't laid out in the official patch notes, and there's actually quite a few, so you Boomkin players out there that might be struggling, you're probably thinking, wait, why were there no changes in 7.1? I'm also kind of worried about that, but if you check out the PTR talent build, which is available on Wowhead, really good resource as well. I found all of the talents that are changing for Boomkins, which are pretty big buffs, some interesting ideas overall. So this video we're going to be looking at the new PvP talents that are coming for Boomkin that are going to help us out a bit. So let's just take a look at them here. So the first two rows here aren't changed. They're exactly the same. But if we look at the third tier, these are basically all new. They're all new. Iron Feather Armor now makes Boomkin form have an additional 50% armor and reduces the chance you're crit by melee attacks. Really good if you're expecting to be trained by melee DPS in general. Probably pretty good as a solo BG player. Moonkin, as melee DPS are hard to deal with. It'll also let you stay in Moonkin form rather than jump in bear form right away, scared for your life. So it's a fairly strong talent overall. Yeah, the next one is Protector of the Grove, and you might say, well, that was already in the game. Why'd you say that was new? Basically, Healing Touch was pruned for Feral and Boomkin Druids, which is good. Trust me, I hate pressing Healing Touch as a Boomkin. It's like a 3-second cast. It's really bad. This is good for Boomkin. Healing Touch is gone, and now Regrowth is baseline, which means you don't need the Resto affinity to have Regrowth. You'll just have it always, which means it's a faster heal. You can spec into this if you think your healer is going to get trained, or if you think you can escape easily and start casting heals on yourself. It'll let you top yourself off more efficiently, but you also run out of mana faster. That's the trade-off. So Protector of the Grove has a place there if you're really worried about your healer and you want to protect them. Then the next one is Celestial Guardian. While you're in bear form, you take 30% less damage from spells and receive 20% increased healing. Now this has really good synergy against teams that run with a rogue and a mage, or a warrior and a mage, something with a melee and a mage, or a double caster. It also synergizes really well with the talent renewal, which is just a base heal of 30%. So that'll heal 20% more. Celestial Guardian is a really good talent overall if you think you're going to get trained hard in threes. Specifically, I don't think so much in BGs, because you're probably going to have a lot of backup in BGs, but in threes where your healer is CC'd, there's a lot of 3v1 situations. This will make you much more tanky, especially because there's mostly spell damage even from most melee classes now. There's a lot of poison, nature, shadow even, chaos from Demon Hunter. There's a lot of magic damage even from just melee DPS spells, so overall this will make you super tanky in bear form. And I would specifically take it over Iron Feather Armor in threes. So basically you're bouncing between Protector and this one for threes. And then BG solo player, probably this one. The next tier, Crescent Burn's not new. It's kind of useless, honestly. I'm never taking it, basically. Especially when we take it the two new ones. And again, you might be like, oh, Celestial Downpour, that's not new. What are you talking about? Well, Celestial Downpour before buffed your Starfall damage by 30%. Now instead, doubles the duration. So Starfall lasts 8 seconds, now it's going to last 16 seconds. 16 seconds of Starfall on the ground, that's going to buff all your dot damage. Really powerful in Battlegrounds, really powerful in 3v3, unless you're fighting a team that has 2 casters, or even 1 caster DPS, because that team is going to be split up. It's going to be hard to stack them and have them stay in it for that full duration, even if it's 16 seconds. If they don't stand in it at all, that's 16 seconds of nothing. So situationally, this is good, I would say, against double melee specifically, because you'll know those 2 melee will be together. It's still pretty powerful, especially in Battlegrounds. Eclipse, this is a completely new talent as well. I'm sure all of us people that play Boomkin know that Boomkins are very cooldown dependent. We rely on an ability called Celestial Alignment, which is a 3-minute cooldown, increases the damage of all our spells basically, and you can spec into Incarnation, which replaces it, which does the same thing. Really, it just lasts longer. This talent reduces the cooldown of our biggest cooldown in the game by 1/3. It'll be a 2-minute cooldown. It also gives us Casting Circle on the ground. So we get Casting Circle plus a minute off of our most powerful cooldown. And if you run Incarnation, that's what I would suggest, is running Incarnation with Eclipse. As soon as you go into Incarnation, the cooldown triggers. So Incarn lasts 30, that means that the next time it comes up will be a minute and a half when it ends. So you basically have a minute and a half cooldown instead of a 2.5 minute cooldown on Incarnation, which is it's really powerful. That's why I'm probably going to opt to take this. Plus the casting circle benefit is nice. So Celestial Downpour BGs, Eclipse more likely for 3v3. Prickling Thorns is not changed. It's a cute idea. I don't really like it overall. It feels like we're trying to be a Frost Mage, so we're rooting and trying to burst and break it. I don't know, like I don't want to be a Frost Mage. If I wanted to be a Frost Mage, I'd play a Frost Mage. And plus, it's pretty weak compared to the two other options. Dying Stars is a new PvP talent, which makes it whenever Sunfire and Moonfire are dispelled, they give you 8 Astral Power each. So if you're in a battleground and the Priest mass dispels all your dots, that's probably 100 Astral Power, right? Or if a Mistweaver Monk renewals and dispels all the dots, it's probably 100 Astral Power. In 3v3, however, I would only run it against Priests and Mistweaver Monks, the same situations. In BGs, I'd run this. Against Mistweaver Monks and Disc Priests, I'd run this. But with the third talent, which isn't new necessarily, but is super competitive, is Boomkin Aura, which is this 15% crit for spells, healing, damage, spells. Really good in BGs as well, so you might want one Boomkin with Boomkin Aura and one Boomkin with Dying Stars and RBGs or something like that. But in 3v3, 15% crit is really good, especially if you're playing with a Resto Shaman. If you have a Resto Shaman on your team, I would suggest playing with Boomkin Aura. It synergizes really well with Sky Fury Totem, which buffs crit damage by 30%. Maybe if you're running with a melee DPS, you wouldn't run it. You'd try and run Dying Stars instead, because healers do dispel your dots. It's nice to get some benefit from it. But you're basically going to be bouncing between these two, depending on if you're fighting Disc Priests, or Priests in general, or Mistweaver Monks. And then the final tier has 2 new options. So we can't get a reduced cooldown Solar Beam anymore. It's kind of fun. It was very strong in Battlegrounds, but now instead we can spec into Entangling Roots, not breaking on damage, which is also pretty strong, because we're a class that wants to dot everything. We AoE a lot. Our roots are going to break really easily, so it's nice we can tell, and it's something like this. Root is a longer range than Cyclone, Root is a faster cast than Cyclone, and Root's a longer duration than Cyclone. I don't know if I probably said that twice, but whatever. So Entangling Roots is actually better than Cyclone if it doesn't break on damage. There are some effects that break roots, but most of them have actually been pruned out of the game. So Deep Roots is gonna have a place. I'm gonna find a place for it. I don't really want to figure out what it is right now. I feel like Cyclone is pretty powerful for Battlegrounds. You can clone flag carriers, clone healers. It's really good for that kind of lockdown. But Deep Roots in 3v3, if you're running with a Warlock and you're dotting everything, you can root someone in the middle of the map and just blow them up. But it is a big sacrifice to lose Cyclone. I would argue that Cyclone is one of the most powerful spells in the game, so you need to really know what you're doing when you're not picking it. And the other one is Fairy Swarm, which isn't new, but it's changed. Instead of being a 50% chance to miss, which is kind of like an Evanesce effect almost, is just RNG, instead of being that, it's a disarm. Now, big weakness I see with this, which I haven't been able to test because I haven't gone onto the PTR, but I'll know in a couple hours when the game comes out, is if this is dispellable. If you can dispel the disarm, it's very bad. It's very bad, especially compared to Roots that don't break, which is really good for locking down melee anyway, and Cyclone, which is really good for locking down anything anyway. So Fairy Swarm is something that I usually only take against Enhancement Shamans, because you want to press it when they use Doom Winds. Doom Winds is an instant cast ability that gives them really fast attacks, and if you just snap disarm them right when it happens, they cry and they're sad. So it's actually a pretty good counter to Enhancement Shamans overall, so I would suggest taking it against them. But again, Deep Roots can do a similar effect, so this tier is pretty hard to rotate through overall. But so those are the general changes. They've dealt with a couple of issues Boomkin has in PvP, which is our reliance on cooldowns by giving us a talent to reduce one of our major cooldowns. They've also given us a few talents to make us more tankier, and they've improved our ability to off-heal our team. And they've also offered us a couple more utility options and a couple more just support base for our class. Like, do we want a crit buff, or do we want power when we're getting spam dispelled against healers? So overall, the PvP talent changes are a buff to Boomkin, and we have a bit more decision making. It should help us with some of the issues. Again, we'll have to wait and see. 7.1 launches in literally a few hours from now, but since these PvP talent changes weren't actually listed on the official notes, and again, that does make me concerned that they're not coming in just yet, but I feel like it's more just they got missed. these are the talents available on the PTR as shown by the Wowhead talent calculator. So I would think that these are coming out. It seems like they put a lot of work into it. It would be weird that they would just revert all of this. So I would guess they are, and I'll know for sure in a couple hours. So either way, thank you for watching the video. I hope it helped you out. I hope it maybe intrigues you to try and play Boomkin. Have a good day, and I will see you later.